Sure.
Okay, I hope I'm audible to all the students who are attending this lecture of introductory microeconomics. Okay, I intend to start with a new topic in this particular lecture of introductory microeconomics. This is called consumers, producers, and efficiency of markets. Consumers, producers, and the efficiency of markets. Okay, formally, this is chapter 7 of MANQ, the book which I am referring to for my lectures on introductory microeconomics. Okay, this is chapter 7 of MANQ, consumers, producers, and efficiency of markets. So after having done the concepts of demand, supply, elasticity, and after having looked at the government policies, okay, we now look at the concept of welfare. Okay, so a very important branch in economics is called welfare economics, where welfare economics is the study of how the allocation of resources, affects the economic well-being. Okay, so we are interested in looking at how to allocate the resources in such a way so that the whole society is well off. Now the society consists of both the producers as well as the consumers. So an economist would be aiming at those policies which benefit the society as a whole. The producers are also benefiting, the consumers are also benefiting. Okay, so now guys, within this, the first concept we talk about is the concept of consumer surplus. We talk about the concept of consumer surplus. Okay, so consumer surplus, the amount, all students can write this, the amount that a buyer is willing to pay for a good minus the amount that the buyer actually pays, for that good. So guys, there is something called willingness to pay. Now what is willingness to pay? You can even write this. When I write the willingness to pay, it means what? It means the maximum amount the buyer is willing to pay. The maximum amount the buyer is willing to pay. The maximum amount the buyer is willing to pay in order to consume a particular commodity. And guys, this price which the buyer is willing to pay is also called as the reservation price. We will be doing this concept in the intermediate microeconomics course as well later, but Reservation price is the maximum price which you are willing to pay. For example, you go to the market to buy a commodity. You have a price in your mind that this is the maximum I will pay. That is called as the reservation price. So what is consumer surplus? So mathematically, if I write it, what is consumer surplus? It is simply the difference between willingness to pay. So willingness to pay minus actual price paid. Minus the actual price paid. It is the diff. So for example, suppose I go to the market to buy a commodity. The maximum price I am willing to pay for it is $10. But I finally purchased it from the seller for $8. What is my consumer surplus? 10 minus 8, which is $2. Okay. Now let us look at this concept diagrammatically. So let's draw a diagram. Okay. So I am taking the example of 4 particular buyers. So this is x-axis, y-axis. On the y-axis, we have price. On the x-axis, we have quantity demanded and supplied. Now, guys, suppose there are 4 buyers. Suppose there are 4 buyers A, B, C, and D. A has the maximum willingness to pay as $100. The maximum A can pay is $100. The maximum B can pay is $80. This is a hypothetical example. Maximum C can pay is $70. Maximum D can pay is $50. What are these? These are the willingness to pay. Okay. So now guys, suppose the price in the market is $100. Suppose the price for a commodity in the market is $100. Then at this price, will B, C, and D buy the commodity? No, because the maximum B can pay is 80, the maximum C can pay is 70, the maximum D can pay is 50. At the price of $100, A is still indifferent. Either A will not buy it or A will buy it. If A goes to buy it, we have one buyer. So I can draw a step like this. And guys, let me tell you, when the price in the market is $100, A is still indifferent. Indifferent means either he will buy it or he will not buy it. He might toss a coin because he is indifferent at the price of 100, because his maximum willingness to pay is 100 and price in the market is also 100. So either he will not buy or he will buy. Okay. If the price in the market, so guys, between 100 and 80, between 100, if the price in the market is between 100 and 80, A will for sure buy it. For example, suppose I take the price as 90. Now, if the price in the market is 90, B will not buy, C will not buy, D will not buy. A will for sure buy. So I can say between 100 and 80, one buyer for sure. Who is this buyer? Buyer A. Now, the moment the price in the market is $80, A will for sure buy, B is indifferent. So I can say either B will not buy or B will buy. If B buys, how many buyers we have in the market? 2 buyers, A and B. So at $80, either B will not buy, in which case we have only one buyer, or B will buy, in which case we have two buyers. Now guys, till $70. So between 80 and 70, suppose $60, A will for sure buy, B will for sure buy. But the moment I reach 70, at $70, A and B will buy for sure. C is indifferent. Either C will not buy or she will buy. In which case we have three buyers. And same thing I can do. I can come down to 50. Between 70 and 50, A, B, and C will buy for sure. But at B, at $50, D is indifferent. Either she will buy or she will not buy. If the price in the market is below $50, A will also buy, B will also buy, C will also buy, and D will also buy. So you can see the steps which are forming. So I hope you have understood this. Now the thing is, till now I had taken the buyers as discrete. Discrete means I can count them: A, B, C, D. That means till now my quantity was discrete. Okay, and what was the height of the demand curve telling me? You all can write along with me. The height of the demand curve, shows the willingness, to pay of which buyer? Of the marginal buyer. Marginal buyer means the last buyer. So this particular height of 100 is showing the willingness to pay of buyer A. This particular height of $80 is showing you the willingness to pay of buyer B. Similarly, $70 and $50 are showing you the willingness to pay of buyers C and D respectively. Okay, so I can say, what is consumer surplus? What is consumer surplus? Let me take a more better example than this, because guys, the thing is, in this example, my quantity was discrete. It was taking only integer values. You can see on the x-axis, I am measuring quantity, and the example I took was that quantity is taking only integer values 1, 2, 3, and 4. But in real life, quantity can also take discrete values. It can take values in fractions. That means instead of the step demand curve, I can draw a continuous demand curve. We were getting a step-like demand curve because our quantity was particularly taking the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have quantity demanded on the x-axis. I have price on the y-axis. You can now see I have drawn a smooth demand curve. This is my demand curve. Now quantity is not only taking values 1, 2, 3, 4. It can take all values between 1 and 2 also, like 1.1, 1.2, 1.001. Similarly, it can take all values between 2 and 3 also. Basically, in this diagram, quantity demanded is a continuous variable. Quantity demanded is a continuous variable in this diagram. Okay, so now you can see, guys, what is my consumer surplus? So I can say graphically, I'm going to show you in the diagram also. Graphically, consumer surplus is given by the area below the demand curve, and above the market price. Area below the demand curve and above the market price. For example, guys, suppose the market price is P1. At this price, how much is demanded? Q1. Now, guys, look at all these buyers. Look at all the buyers before Q1. Their willingness to pay is given by, look at the points I am drawing, the dots. Their willingness to pay is given by the demand curve, but the price all these buyers will pay will be P1. So what is my consumer surplus? All the area below this demand curve and above the price. This will be my initial consumer surplus. Initial consumer surplus. So I can label this as A, I can label this as B, and I can label this as C. So I can say that triangle ABC is my initial consumer surplus. And guys, at the price P1, who is the marginal buyer? So this buyer is the marginal buyer, because at this particular price, this buyer is indifferent. Now, suppose the market price falls. Suppose the market price falls from P1 to P2. What will happen? Two things will happen. When the market price falls, consumer surplus will increase for the existing buyers. How many are existing buyers? These are my existing buyers. These are my existing buyers. They were initially paying a price of P1. Now they are paying a price of P2. Their surplus has gone even more up. And when the price falls, some new buyers will also be added. So I can say Q1, Q2 are the new buyers. Why? Because these new buyers have willingness to pay given by the dots I am drawing. But how much will they actually pay? P2. That means, guys, when price falls, two areas are added. You can look at this red area, and then you can look at this brown area. So what is the red area? Increase in the consumer surplus of the existing buyers when price falls. And what is this brown area? Consumer surplus of the new buyers as price falls. So you can clearly see, if I suppose I label this up, guys, suppose this is B, this was B, this is D, this is E, and this is F. So area of triangle ADF is my new consumer surplus when price falls from P1 to P2. When price falls from P1 to P2, my new consumer surplus is this big triangle which I am darkening. So guys, what is my change in consumer surplus? Change in consumer surplus is equal to area of triangle ADF, area of triangle ADF minus area of triangle ABC. Now guys, from the ADF triangle, if I subtract the ABC triangle, what do I get? Area of rectangle BDE. BDEC plus area of triangle CEF. Now area of rectangle BDEC is in red color, area of triangle CEF is in brown color. Area of rectangle BDEC is the consumer surplus of the existing buyers, increase in consumer surplus. And the brown area, which is area of triangle CEF, is the consumer surplus of the new buyers. Okay, so when the market price falls, consumer surplus of the existing buyers also go up by the rectangle BDEC. Some new buyers are also added now, because of which we have additional area, which is the brown area, rectangle CEF. Okay, so I hope all students have understood the concept of consumer surplus and have no doubts. Okay, so guys, this is where I intend to stop in this lecture. The objective was to introduce to you the concept of consumer surplus. And what we have learned is, if I sum up the concept of consumer surplus, so I can write it like this. If I sum up the points, consumer surplus is the difference between the willingness to pay minus the actual price paid. Okay, and what we have learned is graphically, the second point we have learned is graphically consumer surplus is the area below the demand curve and above the market price. The third point we have learned in this lecture is a fall in the market price. I can write a fall in the market price implies a rise in the consumer surplus, whereas an increase in the market price, if market price goes up, opposite will happen. It will lead to a fall in the consumer surplus. So these are the 3 points we learn from this lecture. So this is where I stop. In the next lecture, I will be discussing about the concept of producer surplus. So I hope all students have enjoyed this lecture. Any doubt, you can unmute your mic and ask, or call up or mail me your doubts at divineschoolofelconomics@gmail.com. So this is where I stop.